All right, if you're just in time, good morning and welcome to Morning Express. Thank you so much for choosing KTN News. Well, that means that it's also time for press review. I dare you to grab a copy of your standard newspaper this morning. The front headline it's already shocking enough. It reads, exposed lies about your ugali and chapati. Well, you don't have to worry about sugar anymore. It's a wide range of maize and wheat flour on sale do not have the requisite levels of nutrients, according to the Ministry of Health. My panel this morning to help us go through press review, sitting closer to me is Advocate Ambrose Weda. In the middle, I have Honorable Kembi Gitura, former senator from Murang'a County. And on my far left, I have Honorable Kipruto Arab Kiro. He's the deputy party leader for ANC. Gentlemen, as always, it's such a pleasure to have you this Thursday morning. On the Standard this morning, on page 4, we've decided to run with this big story of nutrition when it comes here to Kenya. And it also highlights how we make our foods here in Kenya, more specifically our vegetables. We have a nutritionist who goes ahead to talk about how we tend to overcook our meals. But that's not really the aspect here. I will start with you, Weda. Yes. When you've seen this headline, right? And it talks about our ugali and our chapati and the lack of nutrients in it. Does that mean that we need to really reflect as a nation how we go about our food sourcing from the farmers to the millers to the NCPB, etc.?
For the first time, I think I would say that your headline is alarmist. Very, very alarmist and very urban. We think here in Nairobi and we think that's what the country is all about. The countryside, people get their maize and then they take it to the mill and it is milled and the whole food is full of the nutrients. The packet one that we eat here in Nairobi, the white one, is the one that they have removed the core. There's something yellow in the maize, yes, and the cover, and that's where there's a lot of nutrient. So you talk about those who are in the cities, and that is the sweet ugali. The sweet one, the white sweet one, the hostess one. So if you eat that, then you have less. But if you eat the whole meal, you have almost. And most Kenyans outside the cities eat the whole one because it is cheaper and it is accessible. Now, as in the city, our tastes have changed. You give them the whole meal, they find it heavy, they don't find it nice. But some of us who know, you eat either the brown one, which is also in the market, the millet one, and or the whole one. So this idea of overcooked, whatever, I view is this. It depends with the way you have nourished, you've been nourished. If you see the Americans, if you watch the way they cook, you'll find that food must be raw. If it is meat, it must be raw, almost raw, just raw. But it is food which has gone through a very careful preparation as the animal or the cow or the goat. But us, we inject them in everything. We take care of them in the wild. If you don't cook it well, you'll eat more poison than when you say it is overcooked. So let people not just walk up and as a nutritionist, oh, this food is dangerous, oh, people are getting this, No. Today I don't agree.
Before I come to Honorable Kembi, here's the thing, Weda. It says that Samuel Ochieng from the Consumer Information Network says that the problem could be compounded in rural settings where households largely consume unfortified products. Honorable Kembi, your thoughts on this headline? Do you agree with Weda?
I'm quite impressed by how much Weda knows about cooking. I know very little about cooking. If you allow me to confess, I'm quite impressed.
Very good cook.
I know, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm quite impressed. I don't know. But I think it's always good to take these kind of things seriously. I remember when I was ambassador in Brussels, and I opened a paper one morning and I read that Belgians take very little salt. As a result, but they take very little salt, or they eat a lot of bread. Yeah? Every time they eat, there must be bread. And so the government made an edict to all bakers, people who make bread, that there must be a certain percentage of salt, sodium chloride, in bread that is baked. And I thought that was ingenious, because then that one now forces a situation where you don't have a choice. Because the government has responsibility of a lot of things, the health of its nation, the health of the people, and the things that happen. And so when I saw that, I saw a government taking responsibility.
Right.
So now that the Standard is doing this, is having this expose about our ugali and chapati, I think the people responsible, instead of putting people into panic, they should help them to understand these things. The people who bake bread, it must be to a certain standard so that they don't just write on the label that it contains so much salt, so much sugar, so much additives and what have you. It must be factual. And KEBS must look at it and ensure that is it salt that is deficient in the people, and do Kenyans take salt as a general rule? Is it sugar? Because a lot of people are not taking sugar because of the fear of mercury and copper. How do you make people have sugar if it's necessary in their bodies? And therefore you might decide that there must be wholesome sugar in the things that they take regularly without they are necessarily having to put sugar in their tea. So I think these are the things that we need to look at, and this kind of exposure is not bad. It needs to be, put to the test,
right.
And then we see how the people can be helped. Because truly, we read the paper. There was that many years ago. I read the Standard on Saturday, that the cartoon page that was the one who comes on Saturday, the Standard, and he was talking about actually overcooking of food. And was talking about that it's nonsense to say that there's vitamin in sukuma wiki if it is overcooked, that kind of thing, or in the oils that we use. And I remember the manufacturers of oil, Kibo and others, coming up strongly to defend their position and to explain how it should be used so that the people can benefit from it. They were disputing the fact in that Saturday's cartoon page and saying that, yes, there is oil, it's used, it's there, but it needs to be cooked or used in this manner if it's going to benefit the people. And they were arguing and denying that it's not possible to burn out the vitamins or other nutrients that they say are in those oils, regardless of how it's done. Right. So this kind of exposure is not bad at all. It's good. It helps the people. But it should be followed through. We should not just read it and forget it. We should maybe take more interest and see how is the Ministry of Health, or whoever is responsible, how can they help us in liaison with KEBS, with the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, so that we see how our people can be helped. Because these things are there.
Right.
We have reason to fear. And I find it very difficult, for instance, myself, to eat a sugarcane in Nairobi, because I don't know whether it is grown in the valley of in the sewer or sukuma wiki. It's true, because a sugarcane or a sukuma wiki has no digestive system.
Right.
Yeah. So the water actually flows into the leaves or into the sugarcane. But if you come to Murang'a, if I take you to any of the valleys and eat a sugarcane from there, you love it because it's growing naturally on natural water. So those are the things that we need to worry about.
Honorable Kipruto, let me just loop you into the conversation to pick it up from where Honorable Kempi said. There's an important point that he has mentioned. Let's not just expose, but the Ministry of Health, KEBS, NCPB, they should say this is the issue and here's the solution. He's given the perfect example of the oil companies. They said this is how you can actually make your vegetables and so forth. So would you also ride on that same aspect that we're not just highlighting the issue within our health sector, within how it is that we do our farming, but these specific bodies that are responsible should also then give a solution?
Yeah, you know the way the government is formed is they're supposed to network and to be complementary to each other. I would expect that the Ministry of Health and those individuals at KEBS should of necessity be able to give us a solution to the standards that are required, and where there is a shortfall, they should address. I'm saying so because those who deal with issues of nutrition, they say you are what you eat. And therefore, if you are consuming food that is poisonous, then you are going to consume poison. Or if it is falling in terms of standards, you are likely to be susceptible to certain diseases. And this is one of the issues that are cardinal principles in issues of food security. When you talk of food security, it is not just the amount of food that you consume, but it is also the nutritional value of the food.
Right.
And whether you can have it in a sustainable manner. But the most important is the nutritional value. Therefore, the agenda, one of the items of the President's agenda is food security. And therefore, for that food security to be complete, we must, of necessity, emphasize the nutritional value of the food that we consume. It tells you a number of things. One is the issue of us being lax in the job that we do. And this is what many other people call the culture of indiscipline, where people decide to do things the wrong way. They don't care, because as long as the boss does not catch up with them, they can still allow that thing to go on. In some countries, this could have been a very serious uproar, and consumers would have actually taken the issue a notch higher, rather than dismiss it the way my good friend Weda is dismissing. It is not an issue to dismiss. Finally, in terms of cooking, that is an aspect that is still, it's a bit cultural, and some people cook differently. But we should be encouraging people as much as possible, because some of the food that gets to our table, we never know where it has been grown. And therefore, at times, cooking may be to kill some of the elements that may be dangerous to our bodies. But yes, we agree. Food should not be overcooked in a way that you destroy the very value, because it's not just consuming it.
Right.
You have to consume something that is good.
Where has a response?
Just allow me to this theory about overcooking. If you go to the Orient, this country, the Asian countries, early in April I was in Singapore, and I remember they were praying for the minister in charge of health as they find solution for diseases like how to deal with dementia, because they have a huge population of very old people. People are over 100 years. And if you look at statistics, people live longer in the East, much longer, 100 plus, China, Asia, all this. Their food, they take, one of the things they take very serious is cooking. And you'll find in those countries, even if you go to an Asian restaurant here, the food is soft and nice. You eat it and the body will digest it very quickly. When you go to the West, the raw ones, you eat and people become oversized and they have issues of cancer and all this. These are statistics. It is not a question of an individual sitting down and then coming up with alarmist statement. If you go back a few years earlier, before this civilization came into Kenya, you will find that our mothers and our grandmothers and fathers lived longer. But one thing was very common, cooking food thoroughly. If you take about, you will be told about red meat. Maasais live on red meat. But you will find that they are a lot longer, they live a lot longer, they are much better than Weda and Kitonga here. So when some armchair fellow sits in an office, maybe to earn NGO money, then they come up with an alarmist statement, oh, you see, the food is substance, whatever, and then we get confused. Ladies, housewives, and cooks will be confused today. Oh, don't overcook. Oh, eat this. Oh, that. Let us get cooking is an art. And the more we learn about it, the better. That statement is very alarmist.
Michael.
I think what we'll do is that maybe on this panel, one of these days, we'll come and you'll make us a meal.
There you
can
go.
see,
Oh, yes.
overcooked. But let's move
I
away
keep
from
on
that.
saying, even, you know the last act Jesus did?
You regret for the rest of your life.
The last act he did? When he rose from the dead, what he did to the disciples, he cooked for them.
All right. Honorable Kembi Gituna thinks that we're going to regret if we ask you to cook for us. But anyway, that remains to be seen. Let's move on to page 6 of the Standard, where we have not...
Actually, before you move,
Yes,
before
sir.
you move, if you look at that story about the ugali and chapati, it says, column 3, the report says more than half of Kenyans are taking salt that does not meet the required standard of iodine levels. Yeah. For oils and fats, fortification is very good in terms of compliance. That's what they write on the packages. but 73% of the samples failed to attain the minimum level of vitamin A, for instance.
Yeah.
Then they talk about the other iron, the other metals that should be in the food. That's the point I was trying to make, that if in liaison with KEBS and the manufacturers and everybody else, it is possible to have this as part, of
their research.
Every packet, every food.
All right. Well, just be careful out there. Remember that what you need is nutritional value in your food. So ensure that you have that nutritional value. Now, page 6, we have a story there of NAT and members of parliament clashing with Amina over transfers. Now, this is delocalization policy that seems to be bringing trouble in schools. We have a number of schools that have been burnt down. I think even as late as yesterday, we had another school being burnt down. While the members of Parliament, NAT, and the ministry seem not to quite agree on what the issue is. Let me start with you, Honorable Kirwa. Your thoughts on what is happening in the schools, and we need to find a resolve sooner than later.
Yeah, but before I go there, I want to disabuse my colleague, Weda, of using 2 parameters to make an argument that is not really valid and logical. The issue of the West eating raw food is not the main cause of all these lifestyle diseases. It is the ingredients in the food, because some of the foodstuffs are accelerated in terms of growth, whether it is chicken, whether it is vegetable, because of the injection of certain chemicals that accelerate their growth. And as I said, what you eat will affect you invariably in terms of abnormal growth, and abnormal growth includes issues like cancer. Cancer is a disease that is the growth of cells in a very abnormal way. So the two, cooking and the food laced with some agents that may degenerate your life, the two don't tie. Now back to school. The issue of banning cannot be exclusively be explained by the delocalization of teachers. Because usually second term, and if you go back to history, even 20 years ago, even 30 years ago, second term is always a period of challenges for many schools. And many strikes, if you are to do actual statistics, happens during second term because of the fear of mocks, of the fear of exams, and the fear of reality that at the end of the year, we are going to be faced with examination. Now, the issue of delocalization should have been done in a smoother way. I'm not really supporting it 100%. Should have been done in a smoother way because some of the families were separated, and some of the teachers who are being transferred, let's say from Vihiga to Kiambu or any other place, are people almost on their terminal leave, or they have 1 or 2 years to serve in the teaching profession. Some of those factors, some of the people are disabled, or physically challenged, and some of the people have certain unique challenges that the issue should have been phased out, let's say with new teachers.
So in other words, you're saying that the delocalization may have worked, but if done and thought through differently.
Yeah, differently, because you see, you don't just rush and say headmaster should be moved from here to the other place. Ensure that as people get out of college, let them go to places away from their homes. Let them get acclimatized with the environment and rise through the ranks.
Okay, Honorable Kembi, your thoughts on what might be causing this fires? Because there's the argument that it always comes just before examinations, which again would be underscoring another problem. There could be another, even if it comes during examinations, does that mean that then the students are not ready? Does that mean that they feel the examinations are unfair? Do they feel that they're already failing before they fail?
You know, we also sat mocks. We did mocks, yeah, for O levels and A levels when we were in school many years ago. We didn't ban schools, and banning of schools is a recent phenomenon, and then it's got like a wildfire, literally, no pun intended, in the schools throughout the country. And my view is that there must be a very major social problem which has not been worked out yet. There must be, because, like I said, we went on strike too in schools for small little things like that. We're not getting, bread which was very unusual in those days, many years ago. Today, one does not quite understand why the schools are being banned, because how does banning a school relate to mock exams, for instance, unless that child has a problem, maybe mental or social, maybe, I mean, why would a child ban a school, for instance? So for me, it's, we need to delve deeper into it to see what the problem is. And this is why I think when I look at what the DCI is doing, I'm quite impressed with him, actually, with Mr. Kinoti. When he came up with this idea of telling these young, because they are not children. Somebody sitting for is about 17, 18 years old. They're just about to get their ID cards. Telling them that, listen, this thing is going to come to haunt you. These kids think it's a laissez-faire, that things it's going to be just like everything is going to be normal, even when they grow up. But somebody needs to tell them what DCI Kinoti has told them, that you shall be charged like an adult, not like a minor, and you'll be responsible for your actions, and it is going to go into your records that you burnt a school in Muranga, in Kisii, in Kisumu, wherever, and it's going to show in your, not when you write your CV, then you go to Barclays Bank to look for a job, they'll tell you to go to DCI to get a certificate of good conduct. It will show that you have a history, and that will affect your future. So it's time to inculcate this culture into these kids and tell them that it is not fun to ban a school. Every choice has a consequence, and you're making a choice now, it's going to have consequences. On delocalization, I think we need to work with this knee-jerk reaction attitude here. Because one day I woke up and I read the papers, I saw there was something called delocalization. And I'm a citizen of this country. I may not be a school teacher, but I have an interest in the school system of this country. I do not know whether it was discussed between the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Teacher Service Commission, and the national government. I don't know. But if it was discussed, then it would come out, it should not have been effectuated before a certain level of agreement was reached, so that you don't get one person saying, no, we do not agree on this, or we do not agree on the other one. Because for me, I still haven't seen the logic. I still haven't seen the, like Honorable Kipruto has said, some people are about a year to retirement. Then you move in from Muranga to serve in Rift Valley, or vice versa. What exactly are you trying to achieve? How well has it been thought out? What is it going to get that is not there? Are they trying to create national cohesion? Is that what they are trying to do? Let the Orekaparo team, first of all, do a job and give us guidelines on national cohesion before we move in a knee-jerk reaction situation where we are not getting results.
We'll need to take a short break shortly. Weda, very briefly.
Yeah, as a person in the thick of things, I chair a board of Nyakach girls. We have over 2,000 girls. Your media house in the last 2 days reported that my girls have gone on strike. I'm still thinking of the rungu to use against your paper. But let me tell you, decisions are being made by people of the last generation against the people current, yo-yo generation. People who you talk to and they cry. Just something good they cry, something bad they cry. If you see the kind of pressure that these children go through over issues of exams, pushed by the parents, pushed by the teachers, pushed by the community, they almost lose it. Yes, and then they are very young. We talk about ourselves as we used to go to school when you were 6, 7 years. Some of this, most of them, in fact 80%, are so young that when you see them, you think they are Form 1. Then somebody tells you, I am Form 4, I'm going to say it. How old are you? I'm 16 and a half. Until we come down on the question of entry, what stage do you go to? Class 1, what stage do you go into? Delocalization started almost 3 years ago. It is not a recent phenomenon, and it's a good thing. Let's not cover for people who want to sit in their own villages and then they bring their own children. It started 3 years ago. My own Nyakach girls had a principal from Vega, another one has come from. So it's not the issue, the pressure, the psychological pressure. You see where girls would come and tell you, you find they have failed. They have failed a test, all of it. Then you ask them, what really happened? You say, Mr. So-and-so annoyed us. So Said, so we were failing for him. We were yes, they go to that extent. So even when the minister comes, when Kinoti comes and threatens them, oh, you will not go to university, oh, you will do this. Some of them, most of them, would say that I'll go down with people. So let us handle this. Let's not use the old tactics to handle current issues.
All right, we'll have to wind it up right there because of time. It's now 4 minutes to 7 o'clock. We want to take a short break. This is Morning Express, but today being Thursday, we're going to be taking a look at the state of the nation. So we still have the ABLE panel here. And the question that we are asking is, should governors enjoy prosecution immunity? Remember, that's what they're trying to push for. That's going to be on the state of the nation. For now, we take a short break and we release our viewers on KTN Home for Life and Style to begin. For those of us on KTN News, we continue with this conversation on the other side of the break.